It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of the Tuesday segment on the MSD on 117.8. How's everyone doing? I hope that everywhere that you are across the world, that you're having a great, midway through February, right, together with the Lord. Right, we are, well into our 40-day prayer condition for 316, and I really feel like this year is going to be a good one. Right, like we have quite a few people going from American Providence. Unfortunately, I most likely won't be there in person. But if you're someone who's listening and who will be able to see the American Providence team, please feel free to greet them. Right, like they're so excited to meet people from all across the world, and not just that, of course, like to participate in 316 Live. Like I think this is probably like the biggest group of AP members who will be able to go. And so it's really great that they can be there in person to receive this joyful event. And I think one of the biggest thing is like to be able to support something, right, in this specific way. Of course, not just being there at the event in person, but with all the work of preparation that goes before that, and also just doing things together with everyone there, right? So I hope they have a great time, and I hope that whoever gets to interact with them will have a great time as well. So that's kind of like the things going up in the air. For me here, it's kind of entering like another busy segment, and I can kind of feel it in the air. But at least with the lives that we've been working with and teaching recently, I've been speaking with a few of them, and we've been really trying to re-emphasize like faith in a lot of ways. And there's been like some ups and downs with that, we're really working hard for those goals. But like with one of the guys, at least towards the end of last week, I've been wondering like how to connect these guys to Bible study, like because we've been doing like a group thing, but like for some reason like it wasn't getting to that like deeper phase, right, where it was like it made sense to do one-on-one individual Bible studies, right? And of course, there might be merits and both good points and bad points for doing group Bible studies. But for the vast majority of people who like made it to the end and came to Providence, they at least had a time period in the beginning where it was about them like learning the word on their own. It was very, very highly individualized, right? And so of course they each need that. And so in these group settings, all of them like have enjoyed it, and they said that it was very helpful, and that these, especially the introductory lessons, were good. But I wanted to transition them into this next stage. But I was really thinking about how to kind of check and discern, and also how to like really get them connected to this individual thing. But there was one primary guy who I was working on the most, I would say. But then I kind of took a break from really pushing for to get him to come to the lessons in these kind of group settings, because this wasn't really what the hope was for him from the beginning. And then so this previous week we had Bible study with him, and he kind of joked. He said, "Eddie, I thought you kind of forgot about me because I hadn't been like calling out to these Bible studies, even though I've been bringing all these other people." But after that, I had a conversation with him, a very honest conversation, and telling him that I'm working through some things right now too. And I feel like I have to be perfect before God, and I have to set a more perfect prayer condition and reading the Bible, reading the Word. And after that conversation with him, I asked him like, "Hey, bro, like, do you want to take some time like while we're both on campus each day to like read through some scriptures and to pray together?" And he had been kind of struggling over this last semester. And he said he would really like that as well. And so over the last few days, I've been doing that with him, and it's been great. And I hope that going forward that I'll have more opportunities to do that with him. And at least for the time being, I think we'll consistently do it every morning, and pray together and pray for each other in that kind of sense. So that's been really amazing. But those are kind of some of the updates here. I know Hannah and her mom and I have been working on one of the girls here and really trying to do my best to kind of put that girl into the firm grasp of the female members and lecturers and managers taking care of it. And so I'm very grateful to Rachel and her mom for all that they do, right? And really hoping for the best in that regards too. So those are some of the things that are happening on that front. And so I really hope that with everyone's weekend and with this, with the start to this week, that that you guys are all having a very great time. And so with this, we're gonna get into the first break for today, and so we're gonna have like kind of two main topics, and the first has to do with this week's message because I think, like this week's message, it was like I don't know how everyone felt, but it was amazing. And of course, we can say that every single week, but here's some of the things that were quite unique about this message, right? And like I don't know how often you guys like review the messages, like in terms of reading or writing or re-listening afterwards, but this one, at least the translated file, amounted to over 100 pages. And I don't think I've seen a message of this length. And I don't think they adjusted the font or anything like that either. But I don't think I've seen a message of this length in a long time. Right? Like, it's not that I haven't like reviewed all the messages every single week or anything like that. But I generally speaking will like at least take a glimpse at it again. And on some weeks and like through for some periods, I will review it every single week. And I don't think I've seen one even remotely close to this length in a long time. So the first thing is we're going to go into the word. I haven't yet heard Pastor Sky's, breaking things down and reviewing it on the Monday segment. But there were like quite a lot of things, I think, coming from the perspective, both as a second generation and just for myself personally. And I'm curious to know what everyone, has thought about the message and different kind of insights that you guys might have. So we'll go into that, and then we'll go into the second topic, and then I will hand it off to Rachel with 2G Talks. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that break. So going like first into like the big topic of the word, um, even from the very beginning, right? There was so much in this message, but even from the beginning, I think this was one of the most informative messages about like the thoughts and like how it relates to our souls and our spirits and like how it impacts like our life in the spiritual world and stuff like that that I've heard in a very long time. Right. And like I think for each person there might be different like lessons among the 30 principles or just different concepts in providence that might be like a little bit harder to grasp like for different purposes. And I think like for me the general ballpark of that among the 30 principles has always been kind of around the spiritual world, right? And there's various different reasons about it. like um, like I was joking with Pastor Sky and Rachel earlier some of the differences between guys and girls. And sometimes like in like not necessarily in the 30 principles, but like in the past when there were messages like back in 2012, 2013, really going into like the spiritual world, and there were like people who were receiving revelations explaining about the spiritual world. It was always very descriptive about like, oh, what the spiritual world looks like. There's gemstones, people's outfits, stuff like that, right? And of course those things have significance, but at the time I really couldn't understand it. I was like, truth be told, I was like, I could care less about this kind of thing. But I think this week's message really kind of hit it on the head about how all of those things interrelate and how to look about it, for me at least, in a way that really made sense to me, right? And it was that like right, something started off the message by saying that your the speed of your thoughts is the fastest thing in the universe, right? Like it's even faster than your soul and your spirit, right? And your soul body and your spirit body are the closest things, are the second fastest things, right, in the universe, right? But because your thoughts go instantly to the thing that is thinking about, it's the fastest thing, right? And that statement alone, it has so many like ramifications and implications, right? Because it goes to whatever it thinks about, like your thoughts go instantly to that thing, right? Obviously if you have it developed, right, if it's not idle and it's set on God and it's set on perfect things, it'll go to that thing immediately, right? But if you have imperfect thoughts, right, and if you have even an iota of imperfection in your thoughts, just like when you put polluted water into like a drop of polluted water into a container of clean water, it becomes like altogether dirty too. So if you have imperfect thoughts, like good thoughts combined with bad thoughts or predominantly bad thoughts, it naturally goes to that world instantly, and to what your thoughts are thinking about instantly, right? And we know all the ramifications about those things, right? Like and it said this in the message too, right? Jesus told us, and he said this for 2,000 years, and he said this now too, that if you sin in your heart, right, if you commit adultery in your heart, if you hate in your heart, it's like committing murder. It's like committing adultery, right? If you look upon, a woman, or, I guess, for a man too, like lustfully, right? Like for us living in this time period, it's like committing those sins in our spirits and in our souls. And more than anyone in the world, Providence is the place where we know the ramifications and the I would say the not the connotation, not just the implication, the like what that really means, right? Because we know that it's our spirits that are the most important, right? And we know what spiritual life is, we know what spiritual death is, we know what the purpose of creation is, and so because of that, we know that our thoughts are so important. And this is not a new message, but layering this with the spiritual world message and looking at it from the perspective of your thoughts are this fast, it's the fastest thing in the world, was very, very interesting, right? Because we know, right, that the instant that we think, we go. And as Jesus said, right, if you sin in your heart, right, your spirit has committed that sin, right? So if you sin in your thoughts, your soul and your spirits live in that sin. And we know that with the world of heaven, right, that's a place where thoughts, right, and your soul and your spirit, right, because your soul and your spirit have become one, that acts on the things that you think right away, right? There's no latency, there's no delay, there's no like conscience like stopping you from acting on the things that you do. Right, so the spiritual world is a world like if we desire to go to heaven where it's perfect and it doesn't have any of these limitations or the things the message said. There's no sickness, there's no disease, there's no hatred, nor war or anything like that in heaven. Right, only the perfect things get to go to heaven, and so that kind of really taught us like about the importance of making our thoughts perfect from a very different angle that I would say has come up in the messages recently, at least. While, of course, it's not like an entirely new message, right? It's not a point that was emphasized recently. And as I shared in the beginning, this is like one of the longest messages that have come out in recent time, right? And so for many people listening, right, like let's say like this wasn't a topic necessarily that really piqued your interest as much as like any other message. Like maybe this message could have appeared kind of long to you, right? Because as I said, this is probably the longest message that's come out in a very long time. But for me, I was like so engrossed with like all of this word and about learning about the thoughts and about why this is so important. And I'll be honest, I think this had like personal kind of like a personal kind of pull to me and what I've been kind of going through over this last week. And in desiring to make my heart and thoughts perfectly centered on God, that I was like, okay, I need to, really pay attention to this message. So I was taking so many notes, and I didn't even realize that the message was like this length. Right, and of course, this is not nowhere near like the longest sermons ever or anything like that. That something has given and the Trinity has given to Providence, but like it was one of those moments, and I know probably everyone's experienced this. If you haven't, you will, where you're so engrossed in the message and you're either listening or taking notes ferociously that you don't notice time passing by, right? And if you haven't experienced that, or if you haven't experienced that in a while and you're not kind of in that phase, hopefully you'll be able to reassess yourself, split the negative things within your thoughts, so that when you're listening to the word, you'll once again refine what ultimately is joy, right? Just so much joy, so engrossed in the word that like you don't realize the passage of time like going by, right? And for me, this is one of those messages. I can't wait to see what the Wednesday message is like, what the morning proverbs are like. And I was spending time going through the message script, and I'm only halfway through, right? Like halfway through like the 100 something pages. So I definitely have more to do on that front too. And so for the second major topic of Bible today, and it's actually kind of springing off the same thing, right? Like this part of the message was emphasized, and actually something like happened recently, which I think kind of like ties into all of this too, right? And the point of the message is that as we said, with our thoughts and with our souls, they go to the places that we think, right? And our soul, like, if you see it in dreams, it kind of is in the place that, like, we put our souls, right? And they live in the place that shows our spiritual and our soul level reality, right? And so I think actually right before this message, like on the night of Saturday, like as I was sleeping, like I had a dream, and I've been having dreams more often recently. And I think growing up, I didn't have like a whole lot of dreams. And then like when I was like a campus member, I think I had dreams like occasionally, and they were very important like when I did have them. But like recently, I would say probably over the last year, I've been having a lot more dreams. And I think generally speaking, they're pretty indicative of like the things going on. And like and this is something that I have to work on, but like not all my dreams are like crystal clear, like all the events like make perfect sense or something like that. But like you can make out some general themes. So I do have to get better about like probably one, making my developing my soul so that the dreams are more clear, and also that it's in a better place more often, and that I can pray to understand it and pray that I can use it to like learn the things that I should, right? About lives, about things, about situations. And one of the things the message said was like to use this ability of using the soul to send the soul out to do things for God's will, right? It should be used for God's will. So I do have to train these things. But in the dream, right, like in part of it, I think like we were in this like large building. It was kind of like a large like maybe like a villa kind of thing. Like just like a huge house, but like not one of those houses where people are living in like every day, but like something like where like you're kind of going like, into the woods and you're kind of going on like a uh I don't want to say a retreat, but like one of those like things like you would see like in a movie or a story like where like you're kind of going off into like a villa with other people and you're going on a trip kind of thing. Like I don't want to use I don't want to use like the idea of like a murder mystery kind of story as the example because I think it is generally speaking a positive connotation. But one of those kind of houses like that hopefully that kind of paints a better image in your mind. And I think like near this house was like the ocean or the water, and like it was kind of dark outside, but inside the house it was very well lit, right? And so the house was very well lit, and it was like a big house. And I think at some point I found myself like in the water or near the water, and I was like trying to go in the water, right? And so I was trying to look for my goggles, but these goggles, I can't remember if I was holding them, they fell off, but whatever happened, like these goggles were like in the water, like hanging on some rocks, right? And so like I was going to reach in my hand and like grab these rocks, but around these goggles, there were like insects that looked like wasps, like red, like bright red wasps. So I was kind of hesitant to put my hand in to grab this thing right away. So at first I tried to blow the wasps away, and eventually I got the goggles, and I was able to go in. But like while this was happening, like while I was like reaching for the goggles and like trying to do this, I think the reason why I was trying to get the goggles and was trying to go in the water was because like in like beyond the rocks, like not too far away that I couldn't make out his form, but at least a few like maybe 10, 20 meters away from me, or maybe like 20, 30 meters away from me, like I could see something in like going into the waters, like swimming into the water. I have zero idea what that part might mean. But I was like picking up those goggles to put them on to go into the water. But that part of the dream was pretty brief. And like the next part was like inside this building, like this villa, this kind of large house. And like inside were a lot of Providence members. Like people who I've seen growing up, and actually people who like I haven't seen in a while, and so I know they can mean various different kinds of people. And like the atmosphere was that they were waiting to hear something's message, right? Like they were all facing the same direction. It was kind of like, like when we're sitting in a sanctuary and everyone's facing forward. So everyone's kind of was facing forward, and I think they were waiting to hear something, and it was just about to start, right? And so I was like seeing various people, and I had like interaction with someone who I feel like could be the Holy Spirit. Like whenever I see like a female figure in my dreams, like I always assume that it's the Holy Spirit. And she kind of took on like a maternal form this time, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. But I remember like in the corner, like as I was kind of like towards the edge of the sanctuary area, seeing like a second generation member who I know, who looked younger than he actually is in real life. But this kid, he was like filling out a form, right? And I think he was like filling out a form for like uh I think it was applying for something, and I think it was applying for something either in Providence or he was like applying for a job. Right? It was one of those things. It was one of those like kind of like an official form where you're applying for something and you're writing down something. And like as he was writing something down, he was kind of writing down his credentials, and he was kind of writing down like something along those like either his credentials or like why he was applying for this thing or like who he is, something like that on this form, right? And as he was writing it down, um like because I was standing there, like he looked at me and like he kind of looked a little lost, right, about what to write down. And then like I remember in the dream like telling him like, I think if you write it like that, they won't know who you are. They won't really know who you are. And they won't really know like why you're applying for this job, or like really be able to see the value of who you are, something like that. And that's kind of the last thing I remember from this dream. But this, right, like, and so like tying into the message, right, like, we say that we see these kind of spiritual things through our dreams and through our souls, like where they are. And so of course it can mean many things, and if you have any thoughts about what any part of this dream can mean, please feel free to write in the comments below, because like sometimes it's not very clear to us on the first account, but maybe one of you guys have the gifts of interpreting dreams, or like from your vantage point is crystal clear, right? Or something in the dream means something to you that like I wouldn't know, right? Like maybe red kind of wasps or insects means something, or goggles or swimming like means something to you. Yeah. But in real life too, like aside from this dream, and like kind of not related to this message but leading up to it, like one of the things that we've been working on has been trying to teach the SS and also the second generation, with the older second generation. And at least with respect to the older second generation, I think I'm taking a step back, at least in terms of this current education program. Um, and so this is also, I guess, my way of updating Rachel again. Sorry, Rachel, not about that part, but I may still be helping out at least with the younger SS in the current program that we're conducting for the SS. Right, and I've shared about part of this program before, right? Like that it's playing, and we talked about this last week, and many people commented about it, but playing something named Educations from 2006. And last week I talked about how actually like a good number of SS joined, and to the point that we were actually surprised. I wasn't anticipating that many kids to join, right? But that was the first time, and it was very great. And I think overall, the kids who join, I'm sure they at least gained something from that, right? But I had a conversation with one of the parents afterwards, and they were telling me that you know um, what they hope that their kids will learn from watching older second generation who are doing well in Providence is something that they see that these older second generation possess, and that's that resilience, and that even after going through everything in Providence and in life to date, right? And like, and they can see that you went through kind of that you went through crap in your life, and you went through like various kinds of pains and sufferings and things like that. But instead of turning away, you chose to face it and confront it. Right. And of course, like, I think even the person who was sharing this with me knows that, honestly, even for us too, we probably went through stages of this, and times where that was difficult, and times where we actually, didn't confront it face to face. But I got what this person was saying. And so that's something that they raised, and I was very grateful that they brought it up. And so it kind of like this dream reminded me of this too, right? Like of me looking at this kid, and I don't know who the kid could be. Maybe the kid could even just be my own spirit. I can't, and I don't know. But when I thought of it as a second generation, I was like, wow, okay, so what is it that we should be teaching these kids? Of course, they you know, should all learn all of Sun's messages. And I hope that, this is a consistent program that we can do every year for those who really want to learn, right? That we can always have it available for those who want to learn. But one thing that I see is that like this first lecture was like an hour and 20 minutes. And I think for the kids who didn't know what they were signing up for, it was quite long. But going forward, it's even longer. Yeah, it's like at least an hour and 40 minutes to like 2 hours plus. And the length is fine, right? Like if like it's like with this message too, if you're like enthused and you're like into the message, time will fly by. Right? But if you're not really retaining like the benefits like in a way that you can, understand, then like it'll really feel like the time is dragging. And so, I'm wondering how we can best capture like this thing of communicating with the SS and teaching them like the things that they will actually need to know so that they can choose providence, that they can choose the right thing, that they can choose, that they will become someone who wants to learn the word from something, that wants to hear all the messages, that wants to sit through a message that's 104 pages long because they see like how important and how impactful it is in their life. And not just that, that they will be people that regardless of whatever they face in life, that they will be those who confront those things head on, that they will be those who help providence, that help that help their churches, that help their families and themselves overcome adversity, overcome whatever they face, that they will become those who can teach the next generation. And I know just sitting them down and just playing an education for them, that doesn't necessarily have that effect. Maybe, right? Like, but I think what I've been doing so far with some of these SS is I haven't been as honest as I could be with them. Right? I've treated them in part like children at times because I knew that they couldn't handle the like something very honest, right? Like what would actually help them, right? They weren't really ready to take the medicine to some degree. But anyways, that was like a thought that I had. But I do hope that these kids will like actually address these things, right? That they won't be lost in what they have to write before God, like on this application thing. And the same goes like, yeah, not just for these kids, right? Like the same goes for each of us. And like I said, yeah, maybe that thing I saw in my dream was actually my soul or my spirit, right? That the kid that I saw, right? Not knowing exactly what to write. But may we really make ourselves in a way that will develop our thoughts, form our souls, form our spirits to think the right way, and become people who exemplify the word, right? Who know like the word not just as a concept, not just as like 30 principles of understanding the Bible, but since this word is the word that God has given so that we can communicate with it and form this relationship, that our basis on the word will be strong. But in terms of like knowing what it is that he's trying to say, there's of knowing the Holy Spirit, of knowing Jesus, of knowing the Holy Son, and of knowing God. Yeah, and so those are my hopes for this program. It's something that I may adjust. I'll be meeting with the SS team regarding it. And my thoughts have really drastically changed a lot over the course of the last few weeks. I to be quite honest with people, like I was considering even putting down the SS mission, at least for a while, to work on myself and also to prepare myself for the future, for the different things that are about to come up. But after having these conversations, these dreams, and listening to these messages, and praying and setting condition, at least for the time being, I may continue on with this role and see what happens. I still have to communicate with people. I still have to check with God more so than with just people. But I will ask my soul and my spirit to check with the Holy Spirit and to see what it is that would help this history. So anyways, those are the things from me from Bible Today, and I will now at this time go into the second break and hand things off to Rachel for 2G Talks.
Thoughts are the start, thoughts are the wellspring of life. Learn and grow, learn to think. Thoughts improve every day, as much as you think. Know the truth, thoughts are life. They're treasures from God. Focus well, center your thoughts. Focus well, think deeper and higher still. Physically, spiritually, thoughts will determine your fate. God ordained that Welcome back, everyone, to 2G Talks. Rachel here. 2G Talks is a segment I hope to create a narrative and conversation around Second Gen's experience in Providence, while also discussing other topics related to Second Gen, all centered only on the Lord. For today's 2G Talks, I have a short, funny story I want to share with everyone, and Sunsenim's superhero power. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and everyone's staying healthy. I'm sure after my intro, you're probably curious about my Sunsenim superpower hero statement, but we'll get into that later. First, I wanted to go ahead and share a funny story that I have, and it does have to do still with kind of Second Gen related things. It has to do with evangelism, and specifically kind of the mentality that one may have regarding evangelism. A lot of the times when people are working really hard in regards to evangelism, there may be a sense of, I don't want to say entitlement, but perhaps expectations. And maybe I shouldn't be so general. Maybe I should just talk about myself. For me, whenever I'm working really hard, naturally I have this sense of expectation that, because I'm working hard, God's going to give me things or something. And so this story actually has to do with that. So I'll go ahead and just begin. So last Thursday, Houston, we've been kind of having these group Bible studies, and they're usually every Thursday. So last Thursday, same thing. We had another group Bible study on campus. Currently, evangelism is going pretty well, and I do plan on perhaps doing a kind of 2G talk surrounding ministry specifically, and maybe how we have Houston and how we were able to get it back up to essentially zero ministry to, full steam power moving ahead as we have right now. But anyways, going back to the point, we have not only a group Bible study on campus, but we also have an individual Bible study as well. So the group Bible study is usually at 5:30 p.m., and then we have the individual Bible study at 7 p.m. Now, I'm the main manager for that individual Bible study, so that's the one I attend. Now, just because I attend the later Bible study, I still do end up going and arriving on campus around 5 p.m. Why? Well, it's because in an ideal world, I would be able to go home, after work, rest, clean up, and then go to campus for the Bible study. But we love our campus here, our state university. Our campus has now become a wonderful, greedy, money-hungry institution. And so it costs money to park practically anywhere on campus. It's ridiculous. And it can range vastly. Like, it can range from $8 to $20 depending on how long you're expecting to stay. And sure, paying $20 for 3-4 hours is fine if you do it once, but keep in mind this is Bible study, right? And there's 30 lessons, so going once a week for Bible studies, not including hangouts, it starts adding up. So to save money, but also still continue to be able to do ministry work, which is what I want to do, usually that means I end up carpooling with some of the girls who attend the group Bible study. And because they attend the group Bible study, which is 2 hours earlier than the Bible study I go to, they'll leave campus around 4:30, which means my days on Thursdays go from, pre-dawn to working from 7 to 3:30 p.m., and then I leave work directly so that I can make it in time to carpool with them by 4:30, and then I wait another 2 hours so that we can have the Bible study at 7. Yeah, my Thursdays are pretty long. But anyways, like I said, this last Thursday was no different. I kind of planned the same schedule, and I'm used to it at this point, right? I plan to carpool again. And because I have to leave work right away, usually during the day and the day prior on Wednesdays, I'm running around just trying to get as much work done as possible so that, again, I can leave as soon as I'm off the clock. So last Thursday, I'm running around doing my typical thing. The bell rings, my students leave. And usually when my students leave, or my kids, I call them my kids. I don't have kids, but my students are my children. So anyways, whenever they leave, usually I'll kind of walk around the room. I'll do a quick survey of the room to make sure nobody's left anything or forgotten anything. If I see any little trash or pencils on the floor, I'll pick them up, throw it away, put it in its right place, etc., whatever. This time, I'm doing the same thing. And while I was doing it, I kind of walked in the back, and in the far corner of the room, I can see a little green paper on the floor. So I walk up to it, and I see that it's $20. Immediately, I snatch it up. I grab it. And I thought, mine? I didn't even, did anyone lose any money? Nope, nothing. Immediately, I claimed it as my own. Because honestly, like I said, it's a really busy schedule that I'm having. And since I've been keeping this schedule, my work life becomes stressful, and that sometimes bleeds into my personal life. And this is not even including my Providence kind of responsibilities, work life scenario. And so it just can get really busy, really hectic, really stressful. And so when I saw the money, immediately I felt like, oh, God's telling me I'm doing such a good job. Buy yourself a nice dinner when you go to campus and wait for 2 hours. So I'm packing all my stuff away, thinking about what I'm going to eat. Am I going to get a burger? Am I going to go get ramen? So I'm super excited, really happy. And so I'm checking all the things off in my head, all the items, right? Okay, I got my phone, check. I have papers to grade so that I can, pass the time. I'm not just wasting it on my phone for the next 2 hours. Check. Keys, check. My wallet. Where's my wallet? It was at this point that I realized I had left my wallet in another bag, and that bag was home. I had driven to work without my wallet, which honestly, I would have been totally fine driving to campus without my wallet as well, even though campus is about 50 minutes away from my job. But the thing is, even though I was so willing to, and I almost just went from my work to campus anyways, the unfortunate thing is that in order for me to be able to attend the Bible study at 7 p.m., which is the one that I go to, it's in the library. And to go into the library, you have to have your state ID. Guess where my state ID was? In my wallet. At home. I then realized something. I realized that God had not given me the money because I was doing such a good job. No. He gave me the money because he knew in his vast wisdom and omniscience that I had forgotten my wallet. And instead of giving me money for dinner, he was giving me parking money. Because now there was just simply no time for me to go back home and then drive to meet the girls to carpool with them. It just wasn't going to be possible. Again, God gave me that money because, in essence, I'm an idiot. Which might sound a little harsh to some people, but I say that in good fun. I think I gave God a good laugh because when I first noticed I didn't have my wallet, my heart dropped, and then immediately I laughed and thought, oh my gosh, God gave me this money because I'm so dumb. Because now I can use it for its true purpose, right? For ministry. Which goes back to what I was saying prior. It ties all back together, right? When I'm running, when people run for God's history, I think subconsciously we do expect things, and we kind of have a selfish notion that comes to mind. Because for myself, when I did first see the money, my first thought was a selfish one. Like I said, I was just thinking about what I wanted to buy for myself. Food-wise, because I love food. Love it, right? I was thinking about, do I want to get the fried chicken? Do I want to get a boba? I was thinking about those things. But funny enough, as soon as I thought, about the food, about my own wants, my own desires. When I got this money, there was this almost like little nagging thought in my head that said, oh, just watch. How funny would it be if you ended up using this, not for yourself, but for evangelism? And I tried to ignore it at first and just kind of like, oh, that would be so funny. But look at what ended up happening. Truly, God's will is always done. And regardless, I'm accepting it. I am happy. Right? I'm happy because I told God that now that I have this, small title, educational minister, it's a small thing. But regardless of the title, the size of it, Sansanim said, right, that your righteousness doesn't matter about your title. All I want to do, though, is use this title as an opportunity for me to do what God has in store for me, what he has planned, right? I simply want to love to the best of my ability as a bride, but live working as a servant for this history, using the opportunity and the title that I've received. That's really what I want to do. And I'm happy that God allowed me to do that through a small thing like giving me money so that I can continue. Because part of me almost canceled as well the Bible study, simply because I was not going to be able to attend. But because God gave me the money, I was able to do this small thing, this small work for this history. And in the same way, the Sunday message also really got me fired up and excited, right? And the Sunday message talked all completely about our thoughts. It was a great Sunday message. It was long, it was abundant, but it was a fantastic message, right? One of the sentences that was so piercing to me, it was one of the very beginning kind of introductory words that Sansanim used when he said, when you think of heaven, you're already there, which is so true, right? Because it's our thoughts that determine where we are. It's our thoughts that determine our actions. It's our thoughts that determine what we can and what we can't do, which is almost like a double-edged sword, which is what it says, right? Your thoughts can be that way because it can be incredibly liberating, your thoughts, but they can also be the most confining, the most difficult things, your thoughts. It can create the most difficult place for you. Because of our thoughts, we succeed or fail. Because of our free will that God gave us. According to all that, everything is determined. Which is great because Sansanim says, essentially what he's saying is that anything you put your mind to, you can do. But that also means that we really don't have any excuse to not take action. Which leads into my second overall topic for today, that Sansanim's superpower that he has. Well, after listening to the Sunday message about thoughts, it really made me reflect on how I use my own thoughts. Am I using them daily to help me succeed in life? Or am I inadvertently being idle or using them to cause me to fail? Right? Sansanim is someone who has time and time again used his thoughts to gain victory, right? He wins again and again, no matter his body's condition, right? But more than that, this is where the superpower kind of comes in. He's using his thoughts to literally change reality and control time. Okay? What do I mean by that, right? Because it is like a superhero power, yes and no, in essence. So let me explain. God has set a limit for human life, right? We usually can only live up to 100 years, maybe 120. I actually looked up the oldest person to ever live. And it says the oldest person ever who was verified is actually a woman from France, Jeanne Calment, I probably said that wrong, from 1875 to 1997. She lived to the age of 122 years old and 164 days. That's the oldest verified person to have ever lived. Okay? Now, God has set this limit on human life. And in the same way, as sad as it is, yes, Sansanim too will one day pass away. And something I realized during the message as well, Sansanim is not only focused on the physical world. He's not just on this plane. He's also so much in that spiritual plane as well, that he's completely aware that his physical body is going to fade away and that his physical body is going to pass away. He knows that. And so he knows he needs to make enough, even though he only gets to live 100, maybe 120 years. He knows he needs to make enough word, content, history, so that he can last for the 1,000 years of the complete testament. Right? Sunsenim's superpower is that he's living 1,000 years within 100 years. Does that make sense? Right? To me, it really opened my eyes, because when you look at Sunsenim, when you have that mentality of like, you only have 100 days, but you have to get as much work done as if you had 1,000 days. That's going to light a fire underneath anyone, right? And so when you look at Sunsenim, that's how and why he can't stop, why he refuses to stop running, why he's always running at 1,000 miles an hour, 24/7. And not only was Sunsenim on a magnified scale, but I think on a miniaturized scale, we have to look at ourselves too. It made me look at myself. It really made me reflect and think, am I living in a way, my small 100 years of my life? I'm going to be turning 25 soon, in March. So am I really going to be able to use the rest of my 75 years of life as if I have 750 years? Am I living in a way that will remain for 1,000 years like Sunsenim is? And I'm not talking about, my name lasting or even my legacy lasting for 1,000 years, because at the end of the day, that doesn't matter, right? The focus is not about any specific person, physical person. The focus is God. The focus is the man of mission, right? Sunsenim. He's the core. He's the one who has the mission to do the work. But for me, when I put this mentality in my head of I have to live 1,000 years within my 100 lifetime, because it's so extreme, it pushes me to work even more, right? I want to run together with Sunsenim, turning this short lifetime of mine into 1,000 years. Not so that I can be remembered, but that's what it's like to be a bride. That's what being a bride is. It's not just about me anymore. I'm not just myself, right? My heart is with God's. His love is mine. The things he wants to do are the things I want to do. That's the mentality I want to have. I want to be entirely and completely found within him. And if he decides and he's running at the speed of sound, well, I want to be with him. If he's on that train, I want to get on that train. And he does. He wants us to be with him too, which is why he teaches us every single day, every Sunday, every Wednesday, every pre-dawn service, how to live with him, how to gain this superhero power. He shows us all the different facets and layers. And for this week, he really talked to us about our thoughts. And through that, he's teaching us how to gain this, like I said, superpower, how to awaken it within ourselves. Well, how? How can we gain all this time through our thoughts? Changing reality, controlling time? Simple. Through taking action. How does one take action? Well, it's based on your thoughts. Done. That's it. He always tells us the answer. It's so simple. It's a single sentence, but there's so much within that one sentence. And so, to everyone listening, to all the members, and especially to all the second gen, let's really take hold of our thoughts. And I am hesitant to say, for second gen at least, to live running with all your youth. Because yes, we should live running joyfully and happily all of our youth, but it is in our youth as second gen where we're kind of finding ourselves, figuring out if this is the path, coming to realize, coming to learn about this Providence history in a really deep, amazing way about God and Sunsenim and love, so that then, yes, we can live the rest of our lives perfectly, absolutely running together with God and the Holy Spirit and the Holy Son. So I would say, live your youth, making yourself, which is what Sunset says all the time. And then in your youth, which you're still young in your 30s. In your 20s and in your 30s, that's very young, right? And still in your youth, run really hard, run really well. Yeah. I say, let's take hold of our thoughts and shine the light of our lives for this history, right? Not because of righteousness, not because it's the good thing to do or that's what we're told to do, right? That's really my emphasis on it. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do anything, but because we want to do it. Because of love. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Simply my realizations as a second gen, to other second gen, based off of the Sunday message surrounding thoughts, how important your thoughts are, and how you can actually gain a superpower of controlling time through your thoughts. So yes, I hope everyone, second gen and members, can gain this superpower of controlling our thoughts and create even more superpowers of their own so that we can run for this history. So with that, I'll wrap up today's segment for 2G Talks. As always, please feel free to leave a comment or shoot Eddie and I an email at 2gtalks@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit that like button. I will see you all next Tuesday. I look forward to that. Have a wonderful rest of your day together with the Lord. Bye.
Just listen and fill your mind. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the morning star drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm